All right, everybody. If you could, find your way to your seats. We'll get started. Sorry for the delay. We were trying to get emails. That took a little while, but we do want your emails. We want to keep you informed. So at the end, there will be sheets on the tables. You can take your time to leave your email for Stephanie, and we'll gather those up in a database. So that way, throughout this process, we can have to try to pump information out as much as we can. I want to let everybody know we are live streaming as long as it continues to work, and I'm almost certain that it's working. We want to thank Hill Country Fellowship for allowing use of the building. And this is a joint workshop. The reason it's a workshop is so that way all the commissioners can be here and not create quorum issues, but we are taking no deliberation and no action today. They're all seated in the front row. Normally they would be in the back, but in this building, they would be in the back, but they came up front. We are going to start today off with about 4 points of message and service because I read some of y'all's Facebook comments, and I'm just kidding. Sorry. Okay, the bad jokes are over. All right. So we did have agendas. We ran out. I apologize. We will get this online, though, tomorrow. It'll be on our webpage on Facebook. Basically, I'm going to run through it, and then this is derived from a Zoom conversation that Judge Wilson and I had with the Surface Transportation Board the other day, and it's going to talk about the process of this whole ordeal and from their perspective how it goes. So that's the project status and expected timeline, and then we will open it up to public comment. We'll do 2 minutes per comment. We'll time them. We know that you guys want to be heard. Surface Transportation Board said this, and I'll reiterate it too, just so that you know. If you want to get into detail about your property and specifics on your property, and those things are historical or environmental or archaeological, that could be sensitive information, so you might not want to share that in here. They did say that if you share that in your comments to the STB, that they will redact some of that information, because sometimes people will use that information, find out where it is, and go on your property. So that's just a warning, not to get too specific here about some of that stuff. And like I said, when you send in those comments, when it's time, there will be more comment periods for the public, just so you know, and I'm about to go over that. That's when you'll be able to do that. And again, they will redact some of that sensitive information, especially archaeological, historical type things that probably need to stay private, at least between you and the STB, so that they can use it to make their decision. So don't keep it private forever. Just maybe not say it here. And then just a quick reminder, or not a reminder, but just so you know, like I said, we're live streaming. So Texas Materials is probably watching. And so just know that when you're making your comments. And then we're in church, so know that when you're making your comments as well. But we talked to the Surface Transportation Board, and I'll start by saying we are at the very beginning stages. I say we. I better quit saying that because I ain't in no stages. They are in the very stages. The Texas Materials hasn't even filed anything yet. So what happens is they went to the Surface Transportation Board and sent them the routes that you guys have seen, the proposed routes and the existing right-of-way, and they put it up there. It's not filed yet. And then the Surface Transportation Board sends letters to the local governments, tribes, elected officials, and things like that to get an initial feedback. That is the deadline that is April 14th. So a lot of public comments have already happened. Those are being archived and kept, and you can find any and all comments on the STB website. When we do put this agenda out online, it'll have links for a lot of resources, including where to go find that, and then other resources for the website. But now the next step after the 14th is the Surface Transportation Board is going to do an on-site visit, and they're going to do an initial overview of the map and the proposal that Texas Materials sent them. That is between them and Texas Materials. They're going to go, and they're only going to view areas from public view. They're going to go down the county roads and things like that. and they're going to spend, and Judge Wilson, just raise your hand if I say something out of order. I'm trying to follow my notes, but he was on the call too, so I want to make sure I get it as accurate as possible. So they're going to do that assessment. We did ask if we could be a part of that, and it's not time for us to be a part of that yet, but there is time for that. And so then that's going to be in late April. They're going to come down. And then once that happens, the 1 to 2 year clock starts, is the way they phrased it. After that, they are going to sit down and decide if this project is going to require an environmental impact statement, which is a 2-year process, up to a 2-year process, and have 2 opportunities for different public comment periods, or it's just going to be an environmental assessment, which is a 1-year process and 1 public comment period that'll be open for the public. Those public comment period, the first one will open 30 to 45 days from now, sometime probably early summer. They can't pinpoint the dates exactly, but they will get it to us, and then we'll blast it out via the social media, through our county website, county pages, and we'll get this. Any email we get tonight, we'll get a good database going to get that information to you guys. If you got some packets tonight, one of them was the agenda. The other one was some sample letters and comments that we got that if they apply to you, you can get started with them. One is just a general environmental, but it's up to you to get in the specifics of your property. One has to do with red-tailed hawk, one has to do with San Gabriel, and one has to do with the golden cheek. So if any of that applies, you can take these samples. They got passed around. We'll put those on our website as well, so that way when it's time to write a comment, you can have at least a template. I suggest don't copy it to, word for word. Make it your own document, but at least it gets things started. Again, the comments that you send to the STB are on their website. And again, I'll reiterate, sensitive information such as historical or archaeological items, they will redact it, but you want to be careful how you share that in the public. So then after that, after they decide if it's going to be the environmental impact statement requirement or the environmental assessment, then they'll come for an on-site visit number 2. And that will include field work and some landowner input. I don't know to what extent, but I did request, and Judge requested, that we be a part of that. So I want to start making a list of landowners that want to be on that schedule, and I'll see how many places we can get on, so that way, because in my mind, if we can get them on those properties to see it rather than just read it, that's going to have much more impact in their review process and in the statements that they make. And their recommendations that ultimately go to their board to decide. So my information's available on the website, or you can send it to Judge Wilson. So when the Surface Transportation Board comes in, they will look at the proposed routes, which include the existing right-of-way, and then they'll look at the 2 ends of the project that you've all seen that are proposed by Texas Materials. And even Texas Materials stated that they didn't drill down those sites. So when you see that and it goes really close to a structure, that later on, if it goes or when they start to nail down a route, those will move. They're not set in stone. And the Surface Transportation Board also said that they'll look at those routes, they'll look at other alternatives to see. And then basically, ultimately, the board will then review these criteria for the project. Number 1, they'll assess the transportation merits. Does the rail line even need to happen? Is it really solving a problem? Is it to the public good? Is it doing all the things that something to this size should do? So transportation merits is one thing. And then, of course, there's a historical, environmental, and archaeological reviews. They do all of that through the process. And in this packet, you'll find the Texas Historic Commission has already sent them a letter basically stating that they want a full historical assessment done on the whole thing. And so then possible outcomes, the board will either approve, deny/no build option. It's done. Or they'll approve with conditions based on the study. We don't know what those conditions could be, but they could have conditions for different things along the route. And so, like I said, we'll put these online. I do want to go ahead and let you know that the Burnett County Commissioners Court passed a resolution this morning opposing it, and we'll be submitting that tomorrow through the portal. And Lampasas is drafting theirs now. You guys meet next week, and I can't speak for them, but I'm getting a lot of this over there. So these two courts are behind you guys. I think I can freely say that. And then I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know, if you haven't noticed, Ellen Troxclair, our state rep, has sent a letter to the STB as well. I know she has representation here tonight. Senator Flores, he did as well. And he has representation here tonight. I saw him. Yeah, right there. I knew I saw you. All right. David Spiller, the rep for Lampasas, he also sent it in. We have copies of those. That's all I have. I do know that we have representation here tonight from John Carter's office, our U.S. Congressman. Is that Lampasas as well? Or no? No. Okay. Sorry. So we have reps from them tonight, and they'll be around afterwards if you guys want to talk to them or if you want to reach out to their offices. But it seems like everybody that you want getting on board to help is getting on board to help. So, yes. I think we know that people want to be heard tonight, so the microphone will be open. And like I said, we're going to open those to 2 minutes. And then as far as any questions go, we can open it up to questions probably at the mic. I won't be the only one answering them. And a lot of them simply might not be able to be answered by any of us here. We don't want to just pull an answer out and throw it at you. But I know that the reps here from all your state and national officials will be keeping notes. So they're going to help us get those questions answered. And if we find a theme of questions, we'll put them out on the website with answers. So I know everybody is super frustrated and worried about this process. That is the process as the Surface Transportation Board laid it out to me and to Judge. And I don't think I missed anything. Judge, did I miss anything? And so I don't want to just talk to talk. I want to make sure I hit everything. Yes. I mentioned earlier that we thought Texas Materials would be watching, and the reason is because they were invited to attend this meeting. They declined, but they did say they would be watching. I told them we would be streaming it, and it is on our Burnett County government YouTube page, and it'll stay there. It'll be archived, so you guys can go back. You can share it, and people can hear your comments and all the things. And we'll be going back to make sure we get all the questions that we can help answer. The only thing I'll start before, some of this stuff is I don't want to take for granted, but just so you know, on a local level, we have no say over this entire process. The only thing that we have say over would be in the worst case scenario, if it gets approved, then they talk to us about our road crossings. And literally that's about it. And on that note, I will let you know that I talked to Joe Muck with TxDOT about crossings. What are they going to put in that they're going to require? Because 183 and 190 are two, pretty major crossings. And he said that they will be submitting, that their requirement will be a separation at the roadways, which means over or under and not at grade. So I was hoping we could ask for the same thing if the worst case scenario happens, that we can make them go over or under our roads. I'm not sure it's possible, but we're going to find out what restrictions we have to try to help mitigate things. But again, that's in the worst case scenario if we have to go down that to figure out what they have to comply with when interacting with our roads and our highway plans. So the commissioners' courts will be working on that, along with TxDOT, I think, to make sure that the crossings, or anytime they cross our roads, they'll have to do it in a way that has the least impact. So, guys, anything else? Do y'all want to add anything before I open up the mic in front? And again, we want to hear from you. We know you guys want to talk and you have questions. So if you do have a question and anybody can answer it, whether it's from a state rep, just raise your hand. I got mics here. We'd like you to come to the front here and then please talk into the microphone. You came up here to be heard, so we want to make sure you are heard. And so we can adjust the mic. Don't worry, you won't break it. Just pull down on the stand, pick up on it, or whatever it takes. But just in an orderly fashion, we can start public comments now. And again, I'll set a timer for 2 minutes. Once it goes off, just please respect everyone's time and try to wrap up. Would be great. As long as y'all don't have anything else. Well, my calculator's not going to do it. Wrong button. Sorry. Okay, here's Miss Stephanie. If y'all don't know her, she is one of the leaders on the Facebook page. And yeah.
Hello.
It's on.
On? Okay.
She'll turn it up.
Thank you guys so much for being here. This is an awesome turnout. I'm so excited to see you guys getting on board and joining the fight and getting involved. That's what it's going to take. And so I just want to applaud you all for being here. I also wanted to say a couple things. I had a sign-up sheet for emails. Unfortunately, I thought I printed enough, but we are running out of space. So if you're not able to sign up tonight, if you could just email me. It's really easy email address. It's stopthequarrytrain@gmail.com, and I will make sure you get added to the list. The second thing is our website went live today. It's stopthequarrytrain.com. So I want to encourage you to check that out as well. Write those two addresses down. And then everything that Damon was talking about that we'll post both on the website, on his website and Facebook. We'll post it on our Facebook. So I wanted to make sure you had those two addresses. Stopthequarrytrain@gmail.com and stopthequarrytrain.com. Okay? Thank you, guys. And thank you all for being here, and all of our representatives that are here. We're just thrilled that you guys took the time. Thank y'all.
Hi, my name is Bill Hinckley. I represent the Bar H Bar Ranch on 281, which my family has assembled over the last 30 years. I'm not going to talk about my own issues too much, but I would just say that we own 6 square miles of land that is a virtual paradise, that we have taken every man-made element out of it, and they are proposing to run through the middle of our property pretty recklessly with no regard for fence lines, adjacent property owners, and it looks like they turned a 4-year-old with a crayon loose to pick these routes. So, lest we forget, the hill country's for sale, guys. That's what's going on. It's all about money. Their plants, the quarries, are running at 50% capacity. They want them to run at 100%. Is that our problem? I don't think so. They're already making billions and billions of dollars. If you want to follow the money, it's a very interesting trail, and it leads to Dublin, Ireland. If they had more of a regard for their neighbors and were willing to sit down with us and create a dialogue on a more reasonable route, I don't think they would have had the reception that they've gotten so far. This is not right. It's not neighborly. I can't believe that they're even proposing this when there's other alternate routes that we probably could look at. But we are dealing with laws from the 1800s that are very heavy-handed against what we're trying to protect, and we have an uphill battle. So let's not forget how powerful our adversaries are, because they are going to play the long game, and this is going to go on for years. So we got to band together and fight with everything we have. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Bill. While she's coming up, one thing I forgot to mention, and I'm not an expert on this, but on the existing right-of-way, if you feel like you might have an adverse possession claim because of the amount of time that you've paid taxes on it and all the requirements for that, I recommend that you call a lawyer and at least find out, because we are finding out that there's land that shows that it's owned by them, that they purchased it from Georgetown Railroad, but then there's deeds that show otherwise, and those landowners are going through the process to show that. So I just wanted to remind everybody, if you think that might be an option, call a lawyer and at least ask questions and find out. Sorry.
Okay. I don't personally have a dog in this hunt because I'm not living there. But what I have not found on anything that they're telling us why they have to do it right there. You know, what is the absolute purpose that they can't do it any other way? I worked in transportation for 20-something years. There's lots of other transportation that can be done. Why are they telling us it has to be right there, right now? You know, can they answer that to y'all and the board and, you know, put it out into the public?
You can. Yeah.
I'd rather speak to the crowd. The rest of them can watch on a live stream. My name's Michael Greco. I'm retired U.S. Army, 24 years, and I moved out here for peace, tranquility, hunting, fishing, and to take a place where I could call it my dream. I don't like the way this thing started out. Back in January of 24, nobody knew anything until almost 2 months ago. That tells me right there that there's deception in the wind. There was a lot of problems with the quarry and the rock crusher, but the train runs behind my house not even 100 yards. My allergies since I moved in have tripled because of the dust off of those aggregate cars on the train. And now they want to put another track and run it all the way to Lampasas. And they want to steal everybody else's dream. They want to run the railroad next to their house. They want to run it through their livestock business land, which means they have to pay for fencing to keep their animals on their property. But I'm worried about the health. And what I see that's transpiring, and then this is going to go to Texas Materials, that when does your greed for monetary profit usurp all the peoples who have land, property, animals, and health and children? When does that come into play? That should take precedence right there. And that's all I have to say. I will add to Texas Materials that my faith tells me that the day will come when you have to answer for what you do in heaven to the Lord. What are you going to say when He plays back what you did to all these people at this time? Texas doesn't have any more land to expand on, and taking people's land is not the answer.
My name is Dudley Hall, born and raised here in Burnett, been here for 79 years, about 3/4 of a mile over here on the county road, railroad crossing by the hospital. I'm not going to be affected by I will be affected by the new one because it'll be more cars, more cars, more cars. Austin Western Railroad runs the right-of-way for the quarries. They're the worst in the world. They threatened to lock my daughter up. She's here. They came, knocked on the door. We've been calling, complaining. Austin Western Railroad, they block the tracks. They leave engines sitting by our house. I'm 100 yards from, my home place is 100 yards from the track. Your life is over as you know it once they get that track in. We've called and called and called. I'll call Miss Troxclair's office and talk to Catherine. Whoever's here, they'll know her name. And they did help. They called, and it stopped for a little while, but they leave 5 or 6 engines running all weekend or all night or all day right by our house. You can't sleep. The walls shake. They block the roads all the time for 30 minutes at a time. Has gone on all my life. I've been there all my life. It only gets worse. It only gets worse. This morning, from 12:30 this morning till 7 a.m. this morning, they went by my house 7 times. About 100 cars each time. Empty going down, full coming back. The last round I have on my phone, I could show you the video. The last train that come out, I don't know how many cars. I got my phone going too late, but there was around 5 engines up front. Cars coming. 11 engines in the back pushing. So that's a total of 16 engines on one train, and I think I read their little deal they were going to use 2 engines going to Lampasas. But anyhow, it's all about money. It's going to be hard to beat them because they're filthy rich. And I can't fight the railroad. That's why, and I'm not leaving. It's my home place, so I just have to live with it. My daughter just had to move in. She lives in my home place. She just remodeled it. She's had to move into town. She worked for Perdinal Electric Power Company. She works from home 3 days a week on the computer. She just couldn't take it anymore. Engines sitting there, noise, whistles. And after we complained, now when they cross the road, a lot of times it's doot, 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 doot. They're mocking you. Oh, it's terrible. You can't imagine unless you're there. But anyhow, they come and threaten to lock her up for harassing the railroad. The manager out here, Anthony Hoyt is his name. He's the manager, got an office out here on the railroad track. I went out there and I didn't get to talk to him. I've texted him several times, but you're going to get nothing out of the railroad. It's going to be bad. The road crossings are going to be bad. And I can't tell you, if it goes through, and boy, I hope the Lord it doesn't, but your life's over as you know it if they get that track in. Thank y'all very much for listening to me.
Hi, my name is Carol Hall. That's my father. Everything that he told you is correct. I live at my family home, which was my grandfather's, and then my father's that he grew up in. He built a place next door. I have been living at my grandfather's house most all my life on the family land. It's not much, but it's everything to us. If you have family land, you know that too. I love my grandfather very much and my father. It has a lot of good memories for me and a lot of history. Austin Western is the worst. They are the contractors that will be running these rail lines. They don't own them. Capital Metro actually does. I've spoken with them about the many things that Austin Western has done in front of our homes. And in fact, they have ran me out of my own home. I couldn't take it anymore. I fought them for a year. I contacted Mr. Hoyt over the year. Sometimes he'd have the trains moved. Sometimes he wouldn't. They would always give me excuses, and they talk about, oh, well, we're going to do this because of congestion in Austin, so we need to move this out into the hill country. Well, they have congestion here, too, because they sit in front of my home waiting for other trains to go back and forth, and they sit there sometimes just because they want to, just to make things harder or our lives harder. So yes, I had to leave my home. I put about $10,000 to $15,000 into my home so I could live next door to my dad to help him as he got older. Now I'm not able to do that, and I doubt this will make things any better. I was threatened with arrest. I've never been in trouble in my entire life. I've done things for other people. The officer didn't even identify himself or identify me and told me I was harassing the railroad. Look at me. I'm harassing the railroad, right, by complaining and taking up for my family and other people like us who they're going to be doing this to. And I hope other people who are in a position where they can do something about this will actually do something and help us. Thank you for listening.
My name's Morgan Griffin. I just have a quick question. So you were saying with the first round where they're going to come out and look from public roads as far as county roads, does that include cemetery roads that would be considered public?
They'll go anywhere they can go publicly.
Okay. All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
I'll be quick. Can you hear me? Damon, thank you for putting this on, and all the other commissioners and judges and law enforcement, if you're here, thank you very much for y'all's efforts, because I feel like the community's coming together. And first, let me introduce myself. I'm David Standifer. My wife, Linda Standifer, her family, the Snell Alexander family that have been here since 1849. They're getting hit on both sides, Sulphur Creek and Mesquite Creek, so both counties. But and it's a big deal. And then I have land there as well, so it's a big deal for me as well. I've got skin in the game. But I'd like to hear from someone who knows a little bit more than me. It seems like we've got the cart before the horse. How does a private company come in and say, we're going to get eminent domain on your land? How does that work? It seems like we're spending a lot of taxpayer dollars, Washington, D.C. dollars, I mean, federal dollars, state dollars, county dollars, city dollars, city of Lampasas. I mean, why are we chasing them? How do they get to where? Is there a person in this room that's in the representation of our state, beautiful state here, can answer that question? How do they get to where we're chasing them? The eminent domain is not for a private company. A city, a locality, an authority has to say it's eminent domain. Can anyone answer that question? Why are we chasing them? How do they get the right to come in here and say we're going to, possibly take your land by eminent domain? Can anyone answer that? And I'm not coming at y'all by any means. Thank you.
I'm Dennis Donnelly. I'm actually an eminent domain lawyer. Before you cheer, normally I'm on the other side. But this railroad is going to go right through my family's land. So the answer to that is they're a common carrier. And if you get classified as a common carrier, you have the right of eminent domain. And so that means once they get a route selected, they have the ability to go before county commissioners, before a tribunal, and say, how much is your land worth? That is purposely set up so that it's kind of landowner friendly, but there are some things you ought to think about before that happens. What our county commissioner said, I would encourage all of you to do immediately, which is most of these easements haven't been utilized since the 50s. Adverse possession in Texas is 10 years. So as an example, on my family's property, which is out off County Road 201, we've had this piece fenced in and used for our use since the 50s. So for 70 years, a railroad person hasn't stepped on the fence. For 70 years, they haven't accessed our property. I suspect that's true for some of you as well. And so you need to get those facts together, and you need to get something filed with the county that says, no, this is my property. Now, that's not going to stop them from coming, but it means if they do come, you guys can get a little bit of money out of if they do come. That doesn't impact whether or not anything the board in DC has to do with it, whether or not there's an approval, but it's kind of a stopgap to make sure if all the rest doesn't work, that there's at least something that they don't just run right over where you are. And literally, my neighbor and my family's cousin has built a house, and this is gonna go maybe a couple hundred feet from his house. And so all of this doesn't take into account what we would call patterns of use. And over the last 70 years, the patterns of use here have changed, and they are treating these easements like nothing has changed. And that's just not right. Second thing, If I can be of any assistance to you all, let me know. This isn't for me to want to do. This is because I live here and I want my kids to grow up here, and I don't want them to have a road going through their property. And so if there's any other questions you all have, eminent domain is at the end, and I hope we don't get there. But I unfortunately or fortunately have done this a couple thousand times over a couple thousand miles, have written articles on it, teach school on it, those kinds of things. So I won't say I'm an expert, but I know enough to get kind of myself in trouble talking about it. Does that answer your question, sir? It's Dennis, D-E-N-N-I-S, Donnelly, D-O-N-L-E-Y.
Can y'all, with your experience, I don't want to put you in a position where you're saying something you don't want to say, but can we tie them up in court by filing class action lawsuits and for like the next 50 years, at least our lifetime, be done with this?
Ma'am, if that were the case, I would have sued him yesterday. The answer is you have to press at the Texas legislature. There's actually a hearing, thank you, Senator Troxclair's office, on a bill to stop the quarries tomorrow at the Texas legislature. I will be testifying there. If you tune in, watch it. You can watch me fumble around. Secondly, the real way to stop this is in D.C. at the board. And the name of that game is to make sure it goes through full environmental impacts and to make sure every single thing that you can think of is included in your comments. It is a painful process, but that really is the way to rip this up by the stem. Otherwise, you're just kind of nibbling around the edges.
Thank you. You're located in Burnett or Lampasas?
Me, ma'am?
Yes.
I live in Austin, but our property is at County Road 201. It's going right down my entry for about 2 miles, so I know right where that railroad is going.
I know there's quite a few of us that are confused. The train might not be going through our property, but we're in the green impacted area. And so what does that mean? Does that mean they're going to automatically try to put us under eminent domain, or they're just going to, I don't know what that means.
Yes, ma'am. And the answer is it depends on which route I think that is selected. There's a couple of routes that are there, and I'm certainly not a railroad expert. My experience is for electric utilities. So when you see those pretty big power lines that nobody likes, unfortunately that's me, or at least in far west Texas it is. And so there's some nuances here, but typically what happens is they propose a range of options, and then they select one or two of the options, the board will, and that's where it will go. And it is unfortunate. If you are in that path, you will probably have an ability to get some compensation. If you are just outside of where that line is, there's not much that's done. And so while it's terrible to have it on your land, in some ways it's even worse to have it right next to your land, because you get to have all that fun stuff without any of the backdrop. And so to your point of how do you fight it, you make sure that each of you says, this isn't your easement, that's my easement, I own this, because you guys haven't stepped foot on my land in 70 years, so it's not yours. And secondly, that means that all of these routes that they're utilizing or trying to utilize aren't using existing rights of way. It's telling them you're going to have to go and start from scratch. And so the more they start from scratch, the better opportunity we might have to kind of impact where the line actually goes. They do not unless you adversely possess them. Thank you all. Sorry. It's typically just the area where the train is going. It will depend on how they condemn it. It can either be an easement.
The question is, what do they own? Just where the train goes or any other, right?
Thank you, sorry. It's just where the train goes, but there is one of the things that you fight about in eminent domain is you'll all probably agree on, if they're taking 3 acres, what the value of the 3 acres that they're taking is, within, a bit, Masi Manus. But the real argument becomes, well, does it impact the rest of my land? And so I'm going to tell you, if they run over my 250 acres over there, it's not just going to impact the 3 acres that they're taking. It's going to have an impact over the rest of it. And so that's the argument that you get in. But really, the only way to win an eminent domain is to get it before it gets there. And so that's why this part's really, really important. For the railroad, you can go and look if you want to go and look. You can look up, the last name is Hodge, Hodge. That's my wife's my wife's maiden name. We just filed maybe a couple weeks ago an affidavit from my father-in-law that sets forth all the things that I think you need to say this property's ours. And so if you want to go and look at that, that's not me providing legal advice to you. I'm not your lawyer. Sorry for the weaseling, but that's a pretty good start.
Yes.
About 12 miles. If anybody can't hear me, they really are as loud as I am. As I understand it, only about 12 miles of the proposed route was ever railroad right-of-way. The railroad right-of-way was formally abandoned to the government in Washington in 1951. The railroad that owned it abandoned it in great gross detail, surrendered any right that they had to the right-of-way. The rest of the proposed route was never a right-of-way at all. So they're actually coming in and trying to take brand new land that's never had a train anywhere near it, and also to reactivate a right-of-way that was formally abandoned. And now they're coming back and saying, oh, well, we didn't really mean that.
Real quick, I just want to answer the question about the half-mile buffer. I don't know who asked the question. Okay, so the half-mile buffer is where they basically, it's the perimeter in which they do their planning, so their safety planning, environmental planning, those kind of things. When they're going through and they're taking samples and they're trying to figure out if this is going to work or not, it can extend all the way half-mile on either side of the route. So doesn't mean that you could be impacted, but the route is not set in stone, as Damon said. So, but that's what the green shaded area is.
And on that, your comments to the STB would be important, just as important as the impacted area if it's within a certain zone. So don't hesitate to give your comments when the time comes.
Okay, my name is Mary Linda Govars, and those of you who take the Burn It Bulletin, you might have read my letter to the editor that was published last week that said Burn It is not for sale. How many of you have connected the dots? We're fighting the quarry that's going in near Inks Lake, Camp Longhorn, and Longhorn Caverns. With now they want a railroad that's moving quarry aggregates from one place to another. Do we not think that CPI, who is behind Asphalt Inc., isn't driving the need for this railroad, and Burnett County and Lampasas County are being screwed? I'm sorry, I know I'm in church, but we are being thought of as country bumpkins, that we are not intelligent enough to realize how they're doing this behind our back, trying to gather their energies and money behind us, thinking we will not respond. So thank you for holding this meeting, and I know I missed the 70s radical time, but now I am a radical.
I could be radical and emotional. Thank you, Commissioner Byerly. We very much appreciate the Commissioner's Court, and you can help. That unanimous letter will help us. The Brown family has a ranch on County Road. See, I'm going to get emotional. So forget about the personal situation, but if you wanted to destroy a ranch, you would do what they're doing with their route. Goes right in one side, 9,000 feet, goes from the wildlife, the water area, goes through hay production, and then it heads northwest towards 281. And I think what we have, we're at a tipping point with the quarry and with this railroad. If we don't do something, Burnett will not be what our dreams of Burnett are for our kids, our grandkids. It will be an unsafe, dusty, dirty place that is not what we want. It's David and Goliath. Goliath has that $32 billion of revenue, 78,000 employees. They contribute to every PAC and every elected official you can find anywhere in the country. But what does David have? We have the truth, the private property, the safety, our kids, etc. And we have a commitment to stop this, and we need to do it now. Thank y'all. Damon's never heard me just mumble for 2 minutes. New record.
That timer wasn't for you. I didn't turn it off from a minute ago. Sorry. My bad.
We'll just put it facing this way. Let everybody face it.
You're fine. People want to preach today. It's fine. Is there any of the representative staff that wants to say a couple minutes worth of stuff? I said you were here. Oh, no, go ahead, sir. Sorry.
I'm just curious. Did you say, or have you said that there was a meeting with the representatives from Texas Materials? Have y'all had a meeting or a discussion with them?
Yes, sir.
And what was their tone? I mean, were they receptive? Were they arrogant? Were they like, we'll listen to you or not, or were they not, didn't give?
I wouldn't say they were arrogant. What I got from it, and Judge might give a different opinion, but I felt like they weren't as confident as I thought they would be, that they do realize this is a process that has a lot of variables and a lot of input and a lot of impacts. So I didn't take the fact that they were just super confident in all this. And I'll tag that by saying, too, that when we talked about eminent domain, they did say that if this gets approved, they will go to each landowner and negotiate way before they even think about eminent domain. They did say, I mean, for what that's worth, but I didn't feel like they were arrogant in the whole thing, but they do have their talking points as to why this would be good for the future, for the growth, for all the reasons why they think it would be good. They have those. They're lined up. They're prepared. So they seemed prepared. It's okay. So that. Dudley Hall, everybody.
Talking about the power company, the eminent domain. I worked for Perdonalis Electric for 30 years out of Bertram. And one of the boys that works with me, Pop Warner, he's got a place that's going to be out at Lake Victor is going to be included in this. But my question, if this goes through, as far as I know, all the right-of-ways on there are fenced. They're not going to let your cattle, horses, your pickups drive across the track. They're going to fence it. If you have a piece of property that has 50 acres here and 30 over there, and it goes in there, because I don't think they went down the property lines back in the old days. They're going to fence that off, and they're not going to give you an easement to cross that railroad track. What happens on that?
So when it comes to crossings and fencing, I don't have the answer, and I'm not 100% sure where to get it, but it's definitely, we need to find those people to answer those questions.
Yeah. Well, they'll fence it. If you go to Austin, I've traveled in the whole country here for 30 years, this whole area. It's the right-of-way, all the railroads, they're fenced. And one question, is there any dust monitors at any rock quarry in Burnett County?
Well, at the last meeting we were at, oddly enough, I remember this answer because as many as we have, the answer is no, and I was a little surprised to hear that.
From my front door to the street out yonder is material piled 40 foot high. If you drive down the road by the hospital, the county road 340A, when you get to the railroad track, you'll see it. When the wind's blowing out of the south, you can write your name on my front porch, on my cars, everything. No dust monitors. I've called in on that. I've called TCEQ. Nothing ever gets done, and it's just, I'm sorry it's got to that, but it's just a shame. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Desmond.
I'm Lori Allen, and we live off Summit Ridge, which this is maybe 100 feet, the track, the proposed route. When you say to involve federal, is the STB, is that federal?
Yes, ma'am. Surface
Okay.
Transportation Board is a federal agency.
Should we write our senators? Should we, I mean, how deep do we go?
I would say we want to get as loud and as broad as we can and get as much support as we can. So I do know some folks have tried. I don't know if they've done it yet. Stephanie might know, but Cruz and Cornyn and them on trying to get everybody who represents us to represent us in the best interest of us.
Okay.
So whatever that means, as far as that means.
Another concern I have is fire. Not too many years ago, right off Summit Ridge with the train track that runs on 29, there was an extensive fire caused by the tracks there. And we're in such a drought. I'm wondering if that's another environmental impact that we can say we're in a drought. We can't have this risk. Don't know. And then my last question's about bald eagles. We've had bald eagles on our property. Is that important?
Document them, I would say,
Okay.
if you can.
Okay.
Document away. And when the public comment time comes, let the STB know that.
Thank you.
I just keep thinking of these things. So what are the next steps? When we all leave here, what's next? What do we do next? Because it seems like to me, in our research, my wife's done a lot of research and a lot of talking to she's got a direct link to Ted Cruz's office, and we've got a couple of other friends that we're contacting. We're waiting to report to them when we leave here today. But we need to keep, they're going to have every right, as I understand it, to apply. They have that right as a common carrier. We then have to fight it as hard as we possibly can at that juncture. At that 2-year period.
Yes.
Because if we don't attack hard and fight it there with historical, archaeological, geological, you name it, everything that we can, bald eagles, everything, and we don't win that battle, then we're done. We're toast. We're toast. We're toast. And it affects me and my wife on our property. It affects the Snells because we're neighbors. So we're not just losing land, we're losing water. So, but but the point I'm trying to make is everything we do, we got to do it hard, we got to do it fast, and we got to do it now. While they're assembling all of this information. Because once that is done and they decide whatever, we're toast. So my question then is, and I'm not asking for an answer, but I would like for you to think, okay, what do we do next? Because we got all these people, you got over 2,000 people that are protesting, and we've got a whole bunch of people with one common goal. We're all going to be affected. We're all going to be affected. So we need to, what do we do next? As a group, as a body? I don't know the answer yet, but I mean, that's what
I
I'm
have
saying.
somewhat of an answer. So what we need to do next is start to prepare our comments for when the comment period opens to this STB. Start looking on your property and documenting the things that you want them to know about your property. If you don't tell them, they won't know. And so start now getting that together. And when it's time for those comments, if you already submitted one, try to craft it and get a little more specific if you can. Submit again. Let our representatives know how you feel. Continue to let them know. They welcome the feedback. I've never heard a representative say, okay, we're not taking any more letters. They all send them. It helps them represent you. So when you say, what do we do now? That's what you do now. Start to prepare for the first comment period, because no matter what, if it's a 1-year process or a 2-year process, there's going to be at least one comment period. So prepare now for that comment period. And the fight is with the Surface Transportation Board and their process. We have to let them know what our land is. I took a few notes, and I know y'all are standing there, but I'm on a roll for a second. So that Texas Materials described our land and our counties as something that it's not, with the arid, kind of deserty kind of their descriptions, right? So when they get here on site and when we put it on paper, we want them to see what Burnett County and Lampasas really is down to where they want to do and what they're going to impact. So that's what we do now. We start to get ready to paint the picture and show them the picture that what the description is on the filed application is inaccurate, and what we have is worth saving. It's going to be impacted, and we just continue to preach that. Everybody that's here, everybody that's on the line, everybody that's outside of the line, send those comments. Let them know what this area looks like on paper and in person. That's why when they're here on site and they allow us to be a part of that, I want to go on the ranches. I want to send them. I'll spend however long it takes and go to your ranches and show them those things that you're talking about. And that's it.
Hi, my name is Julia or Jackie Coleman. I live in Hoovers Valley. My water source is granite gravel, not the normal aquifers. Guess where the water comes from to our little granite gravel? Up on top of the hill where they want to put in this giant quarry. I'm scared. Our water level, our well, is 98 feet was when it was drilled, and the static level was 24 feet in 2003. 2 years ago, it was down to almost 70 feet, and we're not getting rain. That aquifer is not filling. And this quarry is coming in, and they are telling the LCRA, well, we've gone out and we've measured, and we know all this stuff. We're in a drought. The water level up on that hill is not what it was in 2001, nor is it going to be like that as the rains come and go. What will happen, you can see, is not going to be pretty. Okay, I am actively involved with SaveBurnett.com. We do have some air quality monitors. They paid for them out of pocket. And you can go on their website, go to SaveBurnett.com, and you can read the air quality at some of our big quarries. I'm scared because what these companies, these quarries report to our federal entities is not the truth, and they buy it. There is uranium in the rock on where they're going to put in that quarry. The asphalt company did not report any uranium in that rock, and that asbestos will go all the way around here. So it will go on, I think it goes to Lampasas. It goes like a 30-mile radius from the quarry. So we have to be ahead of the misinformation that's being given out. Thank you for your time.
My question is, and it may be for our eminent domain lawyer, one of my questions is, do we have a good federal attorney who is a common carrier attorney who people have looked up? Awesome. So I would say that I would be willing to pitch in to pay for an excellent top attorney who has shown that they've established precedent in blocking these situations. And Stephanie would be her website would be the place, or her email, for all of us to, put attorney or something in the line at the top, and so we can all talk about that. Because my perspective is that if we wait and we go through the process as they recommend that we do, we're behind. So I would like to be proactive. I don't want to pay for that all out of my pocket. I can't. But if we all are together, we could really hire somebody excellent. And then the second thing is, when they put in a track for a common carrier, it doesn't just mean that company is going to use it, right? It can be used by anybody else who's a common carrier. So we're looking at this in a little small vacuum, and I think it's a lot bigger than that. And if there's something big, I've heard a rumor, something big coming into Lampasas with someone very wealthy, and I'm sure they would love to have trains hook up. So this is just the first battle in our area, and I guarantee you it's going to hook up to every other quarry that you've seen up and down 281 and everywhere else. So I think this is a monster that we need to get our hands around, or else we're all going to be out of luck.
So that kind of is a perfect segue into what I'm going to say. I've been kind of prompted. We posted a little bit about this on our Facebook group, but I've been kind of prompted and given permission to talk more about it. We do have some affected landowners that have joined forces and hired private environmental and historical companies to come in and do our own assessment, as well as a DC railway attorney that actually does this for a living, that's gone up against several of the people involved with this whole process, and has been very successful with that. Doesn't mean, they can't pull magic out of their whatever, but they are very successful at this. They know what they're doing, and the landowners are paying for it. So rest assured that this is being worked on in the background. Is kind of to answer your question of what's next, like what do we do now? This is being worked on kind of behind the scenes. So just rest assured that it's being taken care of from a legal perspective and an environmental perspective. So I wanted to let you guys know that. As we have more info and can talk about it and post about it, we will. The Facebook group?
She's asking.
So the landowners that have hired this attorney, they have hired it on behalf of the entire route. It's not just for them. Yeah. So sorry, I should mention that. Yeah, the entire route. So it's all the routes. It's the green, it's the yellow, it's the orange on both sides, both counties. They are looking at the entire route. So they are on it.
Thank you very much, Damon, for putting this together, and all you commissioners for being here. We appreciate it. As a landowner, I can say that for sure. I'm Debbie Balsam, used to be Haynes of the Haynes Bird Ranch out on County Road 200. We have had the property in our family since 1959. Originally on the west side of it was the old railway that was abandoned. Okay, my question is, now the orange part, which is proposed to go in our southeast frontage, we own a mile of 200. That's a totally different area than the old railway where it was. It's on the opposite end of our property. So I don't know who to address with the railroad or who to address, period. If we might be able to get a list of people, a resource list. a resource list. It's okay. The resource list for people that we need to or should be contacting. If you would, that'd be wonderful. Yeah. Or on the city level, if people aren't Facebook people.
We have kind of a master list of contact people at the local, state, and federal level with their contact info that we are recommending people reach out to. Now, a lot of them we've already made contact with and they're already working on it, but I don't think it hurts for them to realize that there's, it's not just two of us, it's a lot of people. And so I have that list that I can email to everyone now that I have everyone's emails.
Yep.
What was it?
And there will be lists to put your emails down at the back as well.
Yeah.
Before you leave if you haven't had a chance yet.
Okay, and the other thing was, as far as eagles, we've had a couple out there annually on our property on 200, and I wanted to know if that's a sensitive thing.
I think it is. Document it and make sure it's part of your comment.
I've got cedar waxwings in their migration area, and we've got painted bunting in their immigration or whatever, migration.
Try to document all you can, and when you do your comment, that would be specific information that would be important.
Okay, all right. What's that? Got it.
Photographs with the dates, evidence would be good.
I don't know if this is accurate or not, but it's been brought to my attention that there's a Texas hazardous materials. Is Texas Materials a part of that? Does anybody know? Or will they be transporting hazardous materials?
I don't know that. I know Texas Materials will be hauling from their quarries. That's beyond that, I don't know.
Okay. And the resource list was what I was going to ask. That was my second part of the question. And by documentation, you're talking about pictures? Are you talking about logs? Or is there any
specific things to your property? Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We're going to put these links on our website for the STB, which is legal resources, environmental resources, and then the federal law around the STB. So that'll be on our website, and we'll get the other links from Stephanie too and try to share that on the county website. She'll do it on her Facebook and website and
okay.
Try to get all that.
Website name, tell me again.
If you go to the
I've got it,
stb.gov, okay. No, you're fine. And then you can start clicking around. A lot of these are really long, but once you go to stb.gov, and you can start searching and finding all kinds of resources on that site for the process itself. Judge Wilson.
Well, I do want to answer in our Commissioners Court, Burnett County Commissioners Court resolution. That was one of the reasons we stated was once the rail line is built, that doesn't it's common carrier, so anybody with hazardous waste could use it. So that was specifically one of the points in our resolution. So I want to kind of touch. Is it Mr. Ortiz? Is that right? I'm sorry, Rios. I'm sorry, Rios. So just quickly. So I want it to be really clear. So there's a couple of misconceptions that I want to be careful about. That what we're here today in our sharing with Lampasas County is about the rail line. Now, there was a kind of a misconception that the quarry that's going in out at the Granite area was somehow tied to this. And Commissioner Byerly and I did confirm that is a separate entity. In other words, the Texas Materials, when we go to Walmart or down the road here to whatever Home Depot or whatever we're going to Marble Falls for, that large place on the left as we go from Burnett down to Marble is Texas Material. The last one at Fairland Road. Is that correct? And they said they had nothing to do with the quarry that is being installed out at Hoover Valley. Is that right? So anyway, so that's what they say. Just want to be clear, but that the other issue is, Mr. Riojas, so what's happening with their intent to file? They didn't file a full document. They just did a Texas materials filed with the Surface Transportation Board, an intent to build and operate. So all those lines you see, according to our conversation with STB, they're all subject to change. Not just the alternative routes that they're proposed, but the board itself would say, you know, we found Indian artifacts at this location, even the part that they may think that they own, subject to adverse possession and what Mr. Donnelly was saying earlier, might be moved by the board, right? So the board can make determinations about route and all kinds of things. So I just want to be clear about that. So any line that you see could be subject based on habitat, archaeological, environmental studies. What they told us is the board could make recommendations to move the line altogether. So just because you see a line on that map that we've put out doesn't necessarily mean that's a real line. Does that make sense? Okay, at least that's what they're telling us. So number one is the process for that Damon's already said, and I just want to reiterate what he said, is there's a process in the federal government for a company who wants to run a common carrier rail line to request an environmental assessment and then some action later on with the Surface Transportation Board. Does that make sense to everybody? So there's a process in federal law for that. But I'm just saying, does that make sense? In other words, the process is in federal law that a Surface Transportation Board has authority to review, I guess, take an application or intent to review the environmental impact and then make determinations at the federal level. Now, back to Mr. Riojas's question, who is ultimately responsible? Well, Congress passes those laws that the Surface Transportation Board operates under. So what is the, you know, hitting them hard and hitting them long is something to that effect that you were saying. Well, we need to be, and Commissioner Dockery and I have met with the staff of Cornyn and Cruz, and we've made it very clear that we're expecting, you know, them to take responsibility for the fact that there is no federal policy on that. All of us are always subject to some sort of common carrier. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's not this, maybe it's a pipeline. Next week it's a power line. Next week it's a solar farm, right? That's what they're dealing. I mean, it's like all the time we're subject to it. No standard policy. So we should always be hitting our congressman for Bernard, it's Carter, Lampasas, somebody else, I assume? Okay. So, you know, our federal legislators are supposed to be representing us in that regard. So I just want to be clear, it's the Surface Transportation Board making determinations under federal law about where trains go. Our representatives, our senators, making determination about what the policy is and what the law is. And then, so anyway, does that make sense? And then that's the strategy. Commissioners Court has done their part. Lampasas is subject to their deliberation and open records and all the things that they have to do. We'll do their part on Monday. So now somebody, you had a question? Yes, ma'am. The office, there's a sub part of, so there's the federal agency called the Surface Transportation Board, and then there's the Office of Environmental Assessment that is under there. They are the ones who determine that whether it's going to be a 1 year or 2 year. That's not fair. That's not what they said. It's not a 1 year or 2 year. It's either an assessment. Yeah, there you go, or impact, right? It's on this sheet. So we'll put this, if you didn't get one, we'll get, the two definitions, our resolution, but on the front page, it's an environmental assessment, which is, he put 1 year, but I'm not sure that's truly accurate. They just said, you know, you can't put a clock on it. It's just how we look at it. the environmental assessment does have one comment period, and that was part of the Burnett County resolution, is we do not want a minimum, in other words, we are telling them we want a full and thorough review. You heard Damon talk about the Historical Commission. They want a full and thorough review. Nobody wants the short circuit, okay? The other one, where is it, Damon? My eyes aren't focusing on here. What is it? What's the other one called? Oh, environmental impact statement. That's the full review with 2 comment periods, okay? All right, yes, ma'am? One question.
Her question was, does the state or the feds get any monetary gain from the railroad?
My name is Cindy Cosper. I just was wondering if the state or federal level gets any type of kickback or monetary gain from the railway. Because it kind of feels like if you go to them if they are benefiting from the railway being put in, it's kind of almost feels like a moot point to go to them to protest it. Because if they're getting, you know what I'm saying?
That's kind of a tax law. I mean, certainly, you know, the county, when the quarries have equipment, when the quarries, you know, they're being taxed on land values based on quarry. They're being, well, on taxes, the county, city, school district, everybody. I mean, you go out to West Texas, every inch of pipe that goes down into the ground is being taxed. But as far as the rail, I don't know. I don't know that. I don't know if they're paying taxes. I don't know. I don't know if rails are taxed.
Was about Dublin, Ireland. Could that be somebody in this? This may be a legal question. Could that be somebody in the state of Texas that opened up an LLC over in Dublin, Ireland, so that they won't know who's doing all this? It will be a false.
I don't know how to answer that. I wouldn't. I mean,
She's asking if the LLC was somehow.
It's a
fake entity.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure, I don't know that. Yes, ma'am. Do you want to come up here?
Okay, sorry. Yeah. Where is the Public Service Commission in all of this? You've talked a lot about federal, but in Texas, we have very specific laws about a common carrier proving specifically a reasonable probability of service to the public. And if they can't, that's where the PSC comes in. So where is the PSC in all of this? And what is the reasonable service to Burnett County that this railroad is going to provide?
Say that entity again, Judge.
Public Service Commission.
I'm not familiar with that. I mean.
In Texas, common carriers have the right to eminent domain, but this right is subject.
Okay, hold on.
Sorry. In Texas, common carriers have the right to eminent domain, but the right is subject to regulation by the Public Service Commission and requires full demonstration of reasonable probability of serving the public. So my question is, how is this serving the public, and what is the PSC's answer to that? Because I know we're talking a lot about federal, but Texas has a say in this too.
I'll find it. Yeah, we'll find out. That's a good question.
Public Utility Commission? Okay.
I don't know.
Noted.
Hi, I was wondering if anybody's gotten a hold of the Texas Railroad Commissioner, Christy Craddock, and what her duties are, and if it ties to anything? I haven't heard. Okay.
Texas Railroad Commission only does oil and gas. It does not do railroad. It's just misnamed. So.
Hi, I'm Paul Cothran, Crisco Ranch here in Burnett, and the alternate railway cuts diagonally through the middle of our property. We're neighbors to Wayne Brown there, and so we would definitely be impacted there. But I have a question for Mr. Donnelly, if he's familiar with the 1988 Congressional Act called Rails to Trails, which gave the railroads some retroactive rights to abandon right-of-ways. And this might be a question for those people that have old abandoned right-of-ways going through their property and they're, going to try to do adverse possession claims on them. It's called the Rails to Trails Act of 1988. It might be something to research. And also, we're just, like I said, we're impacted like everybody else here. So, we're going to be working hard from a legal perspective. Also, if you want to know, looking forward, the Texas Property Code Title 4, Chapter 21 on eminent domain, Google that and pull it up. It'll show you some of the remedies, and it's about remedies and actions and the process that they have to go through after they've taken eminent domain as far as damages and so forth. So it's something that we need to be thinking ahead on. It's the Texas Property Code, Title 4, Actions and Remedies for Eminent Domain. That's Chapter 21. You could just Google the Texas Property Code on eminent domain. It'll pull it up. Thank you.
So one of the things they've been talking about documenting, ways to document about bald eagles or things like that. So I had a friend of mine, a wildlife biologist. I downloaded an app called iSeek, and it allows you to take photos of bugs, of plants, of birds, of anything you can get close enough to take a picture of it, and it'll document where you saw it if you turn on the features on your iPhone or Google. So it's iSeek, and and Google, I think, has something similar where you can take a picture of it and then document where you saw it and what day you saw it. The Merlin, the Cornell lab, also, if you have a sound of a bird you think might be endangered or whatever, also tracks where you heard the sound or what bird you saw. So keep in mind that there's some software out there that'll help you track that. And then, of course, I want to reiterate Surface Transportation Board, but having run a very large law office before, what the Surface Transportation Board says, like if you said at 200 County Road 200, I found a Indian burial mound, and I found tips and evidence that there was a village there. Then now they said they would do their best to redact that information so they can't see 200 County Road 200. But I'm asking you, even with the best intention, you should not put identifiable personal information. You can say, I have found an Indian burial ground or I found Indian tips, but you really need to be careful to put your property in the hands of, and information about your property in the hands of the federal government I think is risky. I'm saying I ran the law offices for TDCJ, and I had some great staff, and we were very careful about redacting for federal courts things, but we missed it. We missed it sometimes, right? And I'm sure it sounds like they have a very small office, and you're taking on a lot to allow them to have specific GPS locations. You should know that, but don't put that in your, when it comes time to do public comment, do not put that in the public comment. Protect your own information. Okay? Yes.
So I'm Warren Blunser. I live in Lampasas County, and I'm a wildlife biologist, and I'm representing the Snell family that owns property on Sulphur Creek, which feeds Lampasas River. I want to reiterate a couple of things that y'all have talked about today. I promised Damon I wasn't going to talk tonight, but he just hit a nerve for me here. I spend time in court a lot doing expert testimony on eminent domain, and I can tell you, you need to be extremely cautious of what kind of information you put out to the public, whether it be a website, whether it be a governmental agency. You need to have some guidance about your terminology and locations of things. Those are details in the oil that come later. And I will tell you from my experience, this issue is a no-go. It's not about moving it. It's not about eminent domain. It's not about paying people money for what you're going to take from them, because I can tell you the issues in these counties are far more sensitive than people really know. There's some crown jewels in these counties with water, habitat, and wildlife that can't be bought, can't be replaced. You can't replace it if you get paid for it tomorrow. And what I've found is that in these eminent domain cases, we end up in court a lot because they did not contour what they put in these contracts. So this is a no-win for these counties. I can't express to you how strong this is for you to move forward with this. And I will tell you the way to cut the head off the snake is in Washington, D.C. They can stop it there. And I would reiterate the importance of our county officials that have stepped forward to put their names in documents of support for all these people that have properties and interest in this issue. It's very, very important, and this is where it starts, because they're going to look at what kind of support they've got locally. And with that said, I would tell you, don't let your guard down, please. This is very serious for these counties. Probably the most, I've spent hours and hours on Sulphur Creek, from one end of it to the other, and it's irreplaceable. But don't let your guard down. It's very important to move forward.
I hit a good nerve, not a bad nerve, right? Okay, just checking. All right. Howdy. Sorry. You've been very patient.
I just want to tell you folks, I moved here 48 years ago. I spent 24 years in the military and 16 years in law enforcement. These guys ain't playing around, and they will come in and take your property. The bad part about it is they're talking about just the right-of-way, and they're not going to use just the right-of-way. If you've got property next to it, there's been trees that are growing on that right-of-way for 70 years. They can't remove that stuff within the right-of-way only. So they're going to get on your property, and they're going to burn stuff, or they're going to haul it off, or they're going to drive across your property. They're going to utilize it. And they may pay for it, or they may claim eminent domain and take it from you. Once this rail is established, they can lease it to anybody. You can have Capital Metro in your backyard, and they can have a railway station where they have a parking lot where people come to get on that rail system. So it is very, very important for everybody to get on board with this and work with Damon. Damon is going to be your lifeline to this. He's a fantastic guy. I've known him for a long, long time. But if you don't get in gear between now and the 14th and get all your ducks in a row, this stuff's going to hit you. And I don't want it. Just for an example, within 500 yards of my house, there's a bridge that crosses the creek. I'm not going to say what creek it is, but the bridge ain't there. They can't come in and just on the railroad right-of-way put that bridge in. They're going to have to bring in equipment and work either side of the creek, up the creek, down the creek, whatever. So people, you're going to lose property. So all I can say is do your best and work with the Damon up here and put yourself together. Thank y'all.
Damon, I've gone from emotional to mad. If you realize, too, we want to stop it before eminent domain. Because if you get to eminent domain, they do not pay for the fact we can't run Longhorns anymore. They pay for a 100-foot wide strip, in our case, 9,000 feet. So they'll pay for 30 acres. They don't pay for the loss of business. They don't pay for new roads to try and figure out how to get around, or the loss of the value of that corner that they cut back off of here on the back side of the property. We need to stop it before it gets to eminent domain.
Yes, sir. Okay, I think we'll probably wrap up unless somebody just has something they've been holding in. But I do want to wrap up with thank you all for coming. And again, this is the beginning of the process, but it is time to act now and to start documenting and get ready for your comments and all that stuff. And one thing I said at the beginning was local governments don't have a lot to do with the decision, and that's true, but I wrote some things I just want to leave you with, and I think I'm speaking for both courts, and I know that I am, and what we can do is stand with the constituents. We're going to do our best to show the Surface Transportation Board what will be affected by this railway, who will be affected, and this land will be widely affected. And we'll step by step do our best to keep citizens informed. We'll do our best to represent you and protect the future of our land and our counties. So with that, thank you all for coming. And I want to officially close the workshop.